It started like any ordinary Saturday. I had no idea that by the end of the day, everything I thought I knew about my life would be shaken. Kyle and I were lounging on the couch, full from the pasta we'd thrown together for dinner. He leaned back, stretching his arms over his head, then turned to me with that familiar look of curiosity. "Weren't you going to finally clean out Linda's attic?" he asked casually. I groaned, "Don't remind me." Kyle chuckled. "Come on. You've been avoiding it for months. What are you afraid of? Ghosts?" I paused. Not ghosts, just, I don't know. Every time I even think about going up there, I get this weird feeling in my chest, like I'm about to uncover something I shouldn't. He raised an eyebrow. Like a horror movie plot, I rolled my eyes, but I couldn't shake the heaviness in my gut. That attic had been untouched for as long as I could remember. Linda, my aunt, well, the woman I called my aunt, always said it was just old junk. But I had this inexplicable pull to it lately. Like something inside was calling me. Kyle stood and offered his hand. "Let's just look. If it's nothing, we'll come right back down and watch something stupid. I'll even let you pick." I hesitated, then nodded. "Fine, but if I find a cursed doll, I'm blaming you." The attic was even dustier than I remembered. A single light bulb dangled from the ceiling, flickering faintly. Wooden beams stretched across the roof and stacks of boxes lined the edges of the floor layered with cobwebs. We started going through random ones: old clothes, broken appliances, yellowed photo albums. Kyle sneezed 5 times in a row and gave me the most pitiful look. "Totally worth it," he said, voice muffled through his hoodie sleeve. But then, I saw it. A small cardboard box slightly apart from the others. It wasn't labeled like the rest, just a name written in neat feminine cursive across the lid. M&A. I froze. Kyle noticed my reaction. "That's your name." I nodded slowly. My heart began pounding, loud and rhythmic like war drums in my chest. I felt drawn to it, terrified, but drawn. I sat on the floor, cross-legged, and placed the box on my knees. The cardboard was fragile with age, edges worn, almost soft. With trembling fingers, I lifted the lid. Inside was a neatly folded pink baby blanket, a small silver pendant engraved with the initials EJ, and a faded photograph of a baby. Round face, fuzzy hair, smiling toothlessly at the camera. My breath caught in my throat, and I saw the envelope. It was yellowed, creased at the corners, sealed only by time. On the front, in the same elegant handwriting, a single word: "Forgive." I opened it. Inside was a letter, written in blue ink. The writing curved gently across the page, elegant and emotional. "My dearest Emma, if you're reading this, then you're old enough to ask questions I couldn't answer before. I know this will confuse you and maybe even hurt you. Please believe me when I say I love you with all my heart. But at the time, I didn't have a choice. I made a decision that I believed would save us both. I left you with someone I trusted, someone who'd give you a life I couldn't. Please forgive me, Jessica." Jessica. That name hit me like a punch to the chest. It wasn't Linda's handwriting. It wasn't Linda's name. Kyle leaned in. "Who's Jessica?" I couldn't speak. The letter slipped from my fingers onto the floor. The room around me faded. I was 13 again, asking Linda why I never saw pictures of my dad, or why there were no photos of her pregnant with me. She always smiled that same soft smile and said, "Not everything needs to be remembered to be real." My fingers trembled as I picked up the silver pendant. EJ. Emma. Jessica. Could it be? Kyle's voice was quiet now, careful. "Emma, do you think?" "I don't know," I whispered. "I don't have anything anymore." The attic wasn't just a dusty storage space. It was a tomb, a time capsule. And this box, this letter, they weren't leftovers. They were evidence. Evidence that my life was not what it seemed, that Linda may have been more than just an aunt, or maybe less. And Jessica, was she my real mother? I barely slept that night. Kyle offered to stay over, but I told him I needed time alone. I wasn't even sure what I was feeling: anger, fear, confusion, betrayal. All of it blurred together into something too thick to name. I kept rereading the letter under the dim glow of my bedside lamp. Each word twisted inside me like a key turning in the wrong lock. I left you with someone I trusted. That someone had to be Linda. I tried to remember every moment I'd shared with her, every time she braided my hair, every birthday she organized, every time I called her auntie. But now each memory felt tainted, performed, filtered through a lie. And then came the thought I couldn't shake. Had she lied to me my entire life? The next morning, I didn't bother with coffee or brushing my hair. I stomped down the stairs, still in my oversized sweatshirt and socks, the letter clenched in my hand like a weapon. Linda was at the kitchen table, humming softly as she stirred cream into her tea. like nothing had changed, like my entire world hadn't just exploded. I threw the letter down in front of her. Her eyes landed on the envelope. She went still. Her hand trembled slightly as she set the spoon down on the saucer. "You found it," she said quietly. That was it. No gasp, no denial, no questions, just 3 words. "You knew?" I choked. She looked up at me slowly and her eyes were already glistening. "Emma, who is Jessica?" I snapped. Her lips parted, but she didn't speak. I waited. Seconds passed like hours. And then finally, softly, she whispered, "She's your mother." The floor fell out beneath me. It was real. Not a misunderstanding. Not a coincidence. All those feelings I tried to explain away, why I never saw baby photos of us together, why she flinched whenever I asked about my father, why she always said I was special, like I didn't quite belong. I did not belong. "I don't understand," I said, voice shaking. "You raised me. You were always there. Why would you lie to me?" Linda pressed her fingers against her mouth and wiped the corners of her eyes. "I didn't lie to hurt you. I lied to protect you. That's not your decision to make." She nodded. "You're right. It wasn't. But at the time, I truly believed it was the only way." Was she a drug addict? Homeless? In jail? I asked, desperate to find a reason that would make it make sense. "No," Linda said quietly. She was scared. And alone. And barely 19. My throat tightened. "She gave birth in the middle of a storm," Linda continued. "She hadn't told anyone she was pregnant. Not even me. I was living out of state then. I didn't even know until she called, sobbing, begging me to come." "So you just took me?" I asked. "Just like that?" Linda's eyes met mine. "No, she asked me to. She handed you to me and said, 'Give her a life I never can.' And I did. I didn't know whether to cry or scream. She was my mother," I hissed. "And you let me grow up thinking she didn't exist." "She did exist," Linda said, standing up now. "She watched from afar. She sent gifts on your birthdays. She called every year just to ask how you were." My eyes widened. "You spoke to her?" Linda nodded slowly. I couldn't believe it. For 22 years, Jessica had been alive. Out there. Watching. And no one told me. I turned to leave. "Emma, wait." Linda reached out. I pulled away. "I need to find her," I said, voice firm. "I need answers you can't give me." Her face crumpled. "Please just let me explain everything. There's more." But I was already halfway to the door. Outside, the wind slapped my face, sharp and cold. I stood on the porch, breath clouding the morning air, clutching the silver EJ pendant in my hand. I had no plan. I didn't even know where Jessica lived, but I was going to find her. Because if there was one thing I knew now, my story hadn't even begun yet. I spent the rest of that day in a haze. I couldn't eat, couldn't think straight. My body moved on autopilot, but my mind replayed Linda's words on a loop. She asked me to raise you. She called every year. She watched from afar. What kind of mother does that? What kind of woman gives up her child and hides in the shadows like a ghost? By evening, I was sitting on my bedroom floor with my laptop open, every inch of me buzzing with a strange mix of fear and determination. Kyle walked in slowly, holding a paper bag from our favorite Thai place. I hadn't even realized how dark the room had gotten. "Found anything yet?" he asked, setting the bag down. "Not really," I muttered. "Her name's too common. Jessica Taylor. That could be hundreds of women." He knelt beside me. "Let me help." Together, we started combing through public records, social media, ancestry sites, anything that might lead to her. For hours, we sat in silence, broken only by the clacking of keys and the occasional frustrated sigh. Then something. A hospital record. From 22 years ago. Jessica Taylor, age 19, admitted to County General Hospital during a storm. Emergency birth. Baby girl delivered. No father listed. No further records. My heart stopped. "That has to be it," I whispered. Kyle leaned in. "What hospital is that?" "County General, just outside of Albany. That's hours away." "I don't care." He glanced at me unsure. "Emma, are you sure you're ready for this?" "No," I said. "But I'm going anyway." We left before sunrise. The drive was long and quiet. I stared out the window as fields, highways, and nameless towns passed by, my thoughts tangled. I remember the lullabies Linda used to sing me. The way she brushed my hair behind my ears when I cried. I had loved her with everything I had. But now, I didn't even know who I was. I clutched the EJ pendant in my hand the whole drive. It felt heavy, not just in weight, but in meaning. I kept wondering what the J was meant to stand for. Jessica. Or something else. We arrived at the hospital just after 10 a.m. It had been renovated since then, but the bones of the building were still the same. I could feel it in my chest. Kyle waited in the car while I walked up to the reception desk, hands trembling. A young woman in scrubs looked up and smiled. "Hi there. Can I help you?" I swallowed hard. "I'm trying to find information about someone who gave birth here about 22 years ago. Her name was Jessica Taylor." The woman blinked. "Are you family?" "I'm her daughter," I said quietly. Something shifted in her expression. She stood, "Wait here." A few minutes later, she returned with an older nurse, gray hair, kind eyes. Her name tag read Margie. "You said Jessica Taylor?" she asked, voice gentle. "Yes, I think she gave birth here, in the middle of a storm." Margie smiled softly. I remember her. My heart raced. "She came in alone. She was terrified," Margie continued. "Didn't have any family with her. Gave birth to a beautiful baby girl, all wrapped up in a pink blanket." "That was me," I whispered. Margie tilted her head. "She didn't stay long. Left the next morning. Said the baby was going to live with her sister." "Do you know what happened to her?" I asked. "Where she went?" She hesitated. "I'm not supposed to give out information like that, but I do remember she left a forwarding address. Some people do just in case. It might be in the old archive." I nodded eagerly. Margie disappeared again. I waited. Each second felt like a lifetime. Finally, she returned with a yellowed file in her hand. She flipped through it, then gently tapped a section. She wrote this address down. It might be old, but it's a place to start. I looked at the address and felt a shiver run down my spine. It was only 2 towns over. Back in the car, I handed the paper to Kyle. He didn't even question it. "Let's go," he said. As we pulled away from the hospital, I looked down at the note again. Jessica Taylor, 42 Maple Drive. I stared at that address like it held the answer to every question I'd ever had. In a way, maybe it did. Because after 22 years of living someone else's story, I was finally ready to find my truth. The neighborhood felt like something out of an old photograph. Quiet streets, picket fences, and trees that arched over the road like they were trying to protect something beneath. We pulled up in front of a pale yellow house with a white porch and an overgrown garden. The number 42 was nailed to the mailbox in faded brass. I stared at it from the car window. This was it. Kyle looked over at me. "You okay?" I shook my head. "Not even close." "Do you want me to come with you?" I hesitated, then nodded. "Please." We stepped out of the car, the gravel crunching beneath our shoes. The wind stirred the trees above us. Everything felt too still, like the world itself was holding its breath. As we approached the porch, I noticed the peeling paint on the door and the ceramic flower pot that had cracked in half. Someone had tried to tape it back together. There was something oddly poetic about it. I raised my hand to knock. Paused. What was I even going to say? "Hi, I think you might be the mother who gave me away." The idea sounded ridiculous. But before I could chicken out, Kyle gently touched my back. I knocked. Silence. Then footsteps. The door creaked open slowly. A woman stood there, older than I expected. Maybe early 40s, chestnut brown hair and a loose bun. Worn-out cardigan. Her eyes, soft but guarded, locked onto mine. For a moment, neither of us said anything. Then I spoke. "Are you Jessica Taylor?" She blinked. "Yes. Can I help you?" I swallowed hard. My voice cracked. "My name is Emma. Emma Taylor." Her face went pale. She grabbed the side of the doorway for balance. "Oh my God," she whispered. Kyle stepped back instinctively, giving us space. Jessica opened the door wider, almost robotically. "Come in." The house was modest, clean, but lived in. Family photos lined the mantel. None of them had me in them, but I recognized her in all of them. Smiling, laughing, living a life without me. We sat on a worn-out couch in the living room. She sat across from us, her hands folded tightly in her lap. "I wasn't sure you'd ever find me," she said quietly. "I wasn't sure you wanted to be found," I replied. She looked down. I didn't know what I wanted for a long time. I pulled the pendant from around my neck and held it up. This was in the box. Her eyes welled up. "I had that made the day you were born," she whispered. "E for Emma. J for Jessica." My throat tightened. "I spent my whole life thinking you didn't want me," I said. "Why didn't you ever come back? Why didn't you tell me the truth?" Tears streamed down her cheeks. "Because I was a coward." I blinked. That wasn't the excuse I expected. "I was 19, Emma. I had no job, no money, no support. My own parents disowned me when they found out I was pregnant. I hid it for months. The night you were born, there was a power outage from the storm. I had no way to get to a hospital, so I called Linda in panic. She paused, her voice breaking. She came, she helped me. She even cut the cord herself. I was bleeding, I was shaking, and I looked at you and I thought, she deserves so much more than this. I stared at her, frozen. You didn't even try, I said, my voice rising. You didn't come to my school plays. You didn't write me. You didn't tell me the truth. I wanted to, she said, through tears. I watched. I asked Linda for photos. I came to your school once and stood across the street just to see you. But I didn't want to confuse you. I didn't think I had the right. You didn't, I shouted. You gave that up. The room fell silent. Jessica looked down, then nodded. You're right. For a moment, no one spoke. Then I asked the one question that had been growing like poison inside me. Why now? Why keep the letter? Why hide a box in Linda's attic instead of just telling me? She sighed shakily, because I always hoped someday you'd be ready to know. And if you ever came looking, I wanted you to have something real, something that came from me. The ache in my chest deepened. So many years wasted, so many birthdays spent wondering, so many lies built on top of silence. Kyle finally spoke up. What happens now? Jessica looked at me, her expression unreadable. That's up to her. I stood. I don't know what I want, I said, but I know I'm tired of not knowing. She nodded slowly, and let's start with what you want to ask. I'll answer everything. No more hiding. No more silence. I sat back down, and for the first time in my life, I looked my mother in the eyes and said, then tell me everything. Jessica poured 2 cups of tea. Her hands were still shaking. We sat in her kitchen now, where the lighting was softer, the air warmer. Kyle stayed in the living room, giving us space. I didn't ask him to, but I was grateful for it. Jessica placed the mug in front of me and sat down. I don't know where to start, she admitted. Start with my father, I said quietly. Who was he? She flinched like the question hit her physically. His name was Darren, she said slowly. We met in high school. He was charming, older than me by a year. He made me feel seen, special. I listened without blinking. We dated for a few months, and then I got pregnant. When I told him, he disappeared. Just stopped answering, moved away. Changed his number. I tried to reach him, but he was gone. His parents told me he had a new girlfriend in another state. She paused, biting her lip. I was devastated. My parents, they were furious. We were a strict family, religious, reputation obsessed. When they found out, they gave me 2 options, abortion or get out of the house. I chose you. My throat tightened. I lived in my car for a while, she continued, then in a friend's basement. I worked at a diner during the day and cleaned offices at night. I was so scared all the time, but every time I felt you kick, I knew I couldn't give up. She wrapped her fingers around her mug. When I went into labor, I had nowhere to go. I hadn't spoken to Linda in months because she disapproved of Darren, but I called her. I was desperate. I remembered the storm she mentioned before. She came that night. She drove through a flooded highway to reach me. She found me half-conscious on the floor. She stayed calm. Delivered you right there in that apartment. She saved us both. My eyes burned. Afterward, I held you in my arms. I was shaking so hard, I thought I'd drop you. I kept thinking, how can I keep her safe when I can't even keep myself alive? She looked down. I asked Linda to take you, just for a while, just until I could get back on my feet. But 1 week turned into a month, then a year. And the more time passed, the harder it got to explain everything to you. You could have told me when I turned 10, I said, or 16, or 18. She nodded, tears slipping down her cheeks. I know. Every year I told myself, this will be the year I tell her. But every time I picked up the phone, I choked. I was afraid you hate me. I don't hate you, I whispered, surprising myself. She looked up, shocked. I don't trust you. I don't forgive you. But I don't hate you, I clarified. I spent too long trying to figure out where I came from. At least now I know. Jessica reached across the table but stopped short of touching my hand. She pulled it back slowly. I still don't know what role I have in your life, she said. Maybe none. But if there's even the smallest chance, I want to know you. As you are now. I looked at her, really looked. She didn't look like the monster I'd imagined in my nightmares. She looked tired, older than her age, worn from guilt, soft around the edges like someone who had loved too quietly for too long. There was one question left, the one I wasn't sure I wanted the answer to. Did you ever want me back? I asked, voice fragile. Jessica nodded instantly, like the answer had been waiting on her lips for years. Every day. Later, when I got back in the car with Kyle, I just sat there in silence for a moment. He didn't push me. He simply reached over and took my hand. She's not what I expected, I said finally. People rarely are, he replied. We sat there until the sun dipped below the houses. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel like a question mark. I didn't know all the answers not yet, but the silence was gone. In its place, truth. Complicated, painful, human truth. And somehow, that was enough. For now. A week passed. I didn't reach out to Jessica again. She didn't call either. It was like we both agreed, silently, to let the truth settle before deciding what to do with it. But even in that silence, I felt her presence constantly, like a shadow stretching behind me, quiet, but undeniable. I kept the pendant around my neck. I couldn't bring myself to take it off. Linda called a few times, left voicemails I didn't listen to. I wasn't ready for her yet. I didn't know what to say to the woman who had raised me and lied to me in the same breath. Kyle tried to keep things normal. He took me out for coffee, distracted me with bad horror movies, made jokes that didn't always land but always made me smile. He didn't push me to talk. He just stayed. And yet the question followed me like a drumbeat. Now that I knew who my mother was, what did that make Linda? On the 8th day, I got a letter in the mail. It was handwritten. No return address, but I recognized the handwriting. Jessica. Dear Emma, I've written and rewritten this letter more times than I can count. I know you probably need space, and I respect that. I just wanted you to know a few things. First, Linda didn't steal you. She saved me. I asked her to keep you because I was drowning. She raised you because I couldn't. Not because she wanted to take my place, but because I begged her to. Second, I've always loved you. I know that might sound hollow now, but it's true. I loved you every day I couldn't hold you, every birthday I missed, every school year I watched from a distance. And lastly, if you ever want to see me again, not as someone you lost, but maybe as someone you're getting to know, I'm here. There's no pressure, no expectations, just a door I'll leave open. Love always, Jessica. I read it 3 times. The first time I cried. The second time I got angry. The third time, I just felt tired. So tired. That night, I couldn't sleep. I got up around 2 a.m., walked barefoot into the kitchen, and stared at the fridge like it owed me answers. Everything inside felt cold and foreign. And then I heard movement. I turned and found Linda standing in the doorway. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. Her face was pale, her eyes red-rimmed. She didn't speak right away. Neither did I. Finally, she whispered, I didn't come to fight. Then why did you come? I asked, voice sharp. Because I raised you, she said softly. Because I still care what happens to you. Because I'm still trying to understand what I've done. I crossed my arms. You lied to me for my entire life. I know, she said, and I hate myself for it, but please believe me. I thought I was doing the right thing, every step of the way. But it wasn't your choice to make. She nodded. You're right. I made a choice because your mother asked me to. But I kept it going because I was afraid. Afraid that if you knew the truth, you'd leave, that I'd lose you forever. My voice cracked, but you never gave me the choice. You decided for me. You built my entire life on a lie. She stepped closer, hesitant, and if I could go back and undo it, I would. Not because I regret raising you, I never could, but because you deserved honesty. I stared at her, the one who bandaged my scraped knees, who stayed up with me when I had the flu, who cheered the loudest at my dance recitals. And yet, she'd erased someone else's place in my life. Do you regret it? I asked, raising me. Her eyes filled with tears instantly. Never. Not for a second. You were the best thing that ever happened to me. There was a long pause. Then I asked the question I didn't realize I'd been avoiding. If Jessica had come back for me, would you have let her take me? Linda looked like she'd been struck. Her answer came after a long, aching silence. No, she whispered. And just like that, I knew everything I needed to. That night, I didn't sleep. But I made a decision. Not about who was right or wrong. Not about who was my real mother. But about me. About who I was now. And whether I wanted to keep living in the silence of other people's choices or finally start making my own. A week later, I stood in front of the same pale yellow house on Maple Drive. But this time, I was alone. No Kyle. No letter clutched in my hand. No plan. Just breath. I hadn't told Linda where I was going. I hadn't told Jessica I was coming. It didn't feel like something you prepared for. It felt like something you either did or didn't. My palms were sweating as I stepped onto the porch. My heart thumped wildly against my ribs like it was trying to escape. I reached out and knocked once. The sound was soft but sharp in the still air. Footsteps. The door creaked open, just like before. Jessica appeared. No makeup, cardigan sleeves, pushed up, a book in her hand. When she saw me, her eyes widened, but she didn't speak. I took a shaky breath. Hi. She nodded slowly. Hi. I thought maybe we could talk. She stepped aside immediately. Of course. Come in. We sat across from each other at the same kitchen table. There was a vase of wilting daisies between us. It felt symbolic somehow, life fading, but not gone. She poured tea again. Same mugs, same ritual. This time, the silence felt different. Less heavy. More open. I got your letter, I said. Jessica nodded. I meant every word. I believe you. Her eyes shimmered. I didn't expect to see you again so soon. I didn't expect to come, I admitted, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. About you. About everything. She folded her hands together. I still don't know what you need from me, but whatever it is, I'll try. I looked down at the pendant around my neck. It caught the light just slightly, the EJ engraving still faint but there. I'm not here for answers anymore, I said. I've had enough answers to last a lifetime. Jessica smiled softly. Then why are you here? I looked her in the eyes. Because I think we both deserve a second chance. Not to rewrite the past, but to write something new. Her breath caught. She reached for my hand this time, and this time I let her. Her fingers were warm, gentle, not desperate, not forceful. Just present. I don't know how to be a mother, she said. I don't need a mother, I replied. I need honesty and time. Jessica nodded. You'll have both. We spent the afternoon talking, not about the past. About books we loved, foods we hated, stupid childhood memories she never got to hear. She told me she still kept the first pair of baby socks I ever wore, that she still had the bracelet from the hospital with my name misspelled as Emma, that for 22 years she kept a journal, one entry every birthday written to me. She gave it to me before I left. I held it to my chest the whole ride home. That night, I stood outside Linda's door. She opened it like she knew I was coming. We didn't speak. I just stepped forward and hugged her, tightly. She broke down in my arms. I don't know what comes next. I don't have a roadmap. I have two women, one who gave me life, one who gave me everything else, and me somewhere in the middle. But for the first time, I'm not stuck between them. I'm standing on my own, and for the first time in 22 years, I get to decide who I become. It's been 6 months. 6 months since I found the box in the attic. 6 months since the truth unraveled everything I thought I knew. 6 months since I met the woman who gave me life and confronted the woman who gave me love. Some days it still feels surreal, like I stepped into someone else's memory and forgot how to get back. But most days, it feels real, grounded, quiet, honest. I see Jessica about once a week now. Sometimes we meet at her house. Sometimes we go for walks. Sometimes we just sit and talk about nothing. We don't try to fill the silence anymore. We've learned to be comfortable in it. She's learning things about me, things she missed. The way I fidget with my sleeves when I'm nervous. How I hate lives. How I still sleep with a blanket I've had since I was 10. I'm learning things about her too. How she hums when she washes dishes. How she doodles on napkins while she thinks. How her smile is almost exactly like mine. But I don't call her mom. Not yet. Maybe not ever. And that's okay. Linda and I are healing too. It wasn't instant. It wasn't easy. But we've had hard conversations. We've yelled. We've cried. We've sat in silence on opposite sides of the couch, not knowing where to begin again. But we always came back. Because the love was always real, even when the story wasn't. She's still the one I call when I get sick. Still the one who knows how I like my coffee. Still the one who stayed up with me during finals, whispering "You've got this" at 3 a.m. I don't love her less. I just love her differently now. More honestly. The journal Jessica gave me sits on my nightstand. I haven't read every page. I don't think I want to, not all at once. It's too much. Too heavy. Too sacred. But sometimes when the world goes quiet, I'll open to a random birthday entry. One year she wrote, I hope you're laughing a lot today. I hope someone brought you cake. I hope you feel loved even if you don't know why. Another year. I saw a girl today who looked just like you. I almost called out your name, but I didn't. I just watched her walk away. It breaks me, but also stitches something back together. Because even in her absence, she never really left. People ask me sometimes, people who know a little, but not everything. Do you ever wish you hadn't found out? And the truth is, sometimes. Sometimes I wish I could go back to the simplicity of before, but only for a moment, because even though the truth hurt, it gave me freedom. Freedom to question. Freedom to rebuild. Freedom to know myself without the weight of secrets I never chose. My name is Emma. I was raised by a woman who wasn't my mother, and born to a woman who couldn't raise me. And now, I am neither of their versions of me. I am mine. And I'm finally writing the rest of my story. one honest chapter at a time.